a big article came out in the New York Times. By big, I mean 1,000 words. It's not that big, actually. But the title of this article by Shivani Gonzalez is "The Bachelor is Shattering Its Own Fairy Tale." And largely what this article is about is the fallout after the demonstrator revelations that he had a restraining order, that he dumped Jen on a 15-minute phone call, et cetera, et cetera. It's about
That's not tearing fairy tales to shreds.
It's shattering them.
Shattering is, would you rather be shattered or torn to shreds?
Shattered. Complete decimation.
Me too.
Don't tear me to shreds. Don't give me the hope that I can put myself back together. This article is largely about the restraining order with Devon Strader and kind of his checkered past and how can that type of a person be in the show. It is also about Gil from Golden Bachelorette and his restraining order that is now out there. And we're now also getting some reporting that was not in this New York Times article about Guy from Golden Bachelorette, which we're going to get to in a moment. That's also part of the state of the game. But this article, I don't think that the article is particularly well written, and I may do a whole video about that on our YouTube, just going through the article and talking through it point by point. They get all the basic info correct, but it's the kind of backstory. Why is this happening? That is nowhere in there. And they talk a little bit about how the ratings are dipping for Golden Bachelorette. They don't talk about the fact that all network TV is in the shitter.
They should probably update it with the new allegations as well.
Yeah.
I looked at the time the article was published and I was like, oh, they must be kicking themselves. They just missed the latest update.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not up to the second with the restraining orders and kind of bad histories of the guys in The Bachelor, then you're missing something probably. But the bigger idea here is that the New York Times, this is the paper of record for humanity currently in 2024, is now reporting this article with a title that says The Bachelor is shattering its own fairy tale. So the idea that The Bachelor, the producers, how they're making the show, is now detrimental to the franchise as a whole is very much in the zeitgeist. It's being written about on the biggest scale that you can do it, at least in terms of mainstream media. And so, the problem here is really in casting, I think. But let's take this to the next thing, this Guy Ganser stuff that's coming out. So now these reports are coming out from various outlets that he threatened an ex-girlfriend in 2021. This guy is still in Golden Bachelorette, by the way. Gil has been kicked out this week, but Guy is still very much in the game. And what's being reported is that he threatened an ex-girlfriend in 2021, who then sought a restraining order. That restraining order was never granted, but then Guy and his ex-wife both tried to have all of those records sealed on September 30th That's not the ex who sought the restraining order. Correct. But I believe the ex also tried to help. I think none of them wanted any of this to come out because they didn't want their lives turned upside down. We're going to get to this. Guy also put out a statement today in response to all these articles coming out. But they tried to have all these documents sealed on September 30th. Now, you can do that. You can seal these documents. It wasn't granted. They were not sealed. But even if you do it, the story still remains. It's not like sealing the documents makes the thing you did in the past go away or not have ever happened. He still is somebody who probably should not have been cast in this show. And really the root of this problem is now it seems like every season there's at least one or two guys who have not only credible allegations,
season where there's more than one man.
Yeah, every season that has a player pool of men. At any rate, Guy released a statement on Instagram. I'm just going to read this whole thing right here for you. It says, I would like to respond. This is in his main grid, by the way. I would like to respond to articles about a personal matter from 2021. This was an unfortunate situation that occurred during the incredibly stressful time for me and my former spouse, and was ultimately resolved when she voluntarily dismissed her request for a protective order. Together, we crafted a resolution that was agreeable to both parties. My ex-wife and I recently asked the court to seal her application. So I'm also kind of confused about if this is his ex-wife that was looking for the restraining order or if it was a girlfriend. It's being reported differently in both cases, and the language is kind of unclear about it. But at any rate, my ex-wife and I recently asked the court to seal her application for the protective order as we had hoped to maintain privacy for our family, but I know that with being in the public eye comes responsibility. My ex-wife and I were married for 34 years, and in that time had 4 children who we raised together and deeply loved. They are my greatest accomplishments. My divorce was extremely difficult for me and led me to I believe it was, sorry, this is kind of
very
like
low point in my life. And as a result, I acted in a way that does not represent who I am. The past few years have caused me to conduct a deep personal evaluation, and I will always continue to work to improve myself. I am so appreciative of the Golden Bachelorette and Bachelor Nation, as well as my family, who have been exceptionally supportive during the most difficult times of my life. I am eternally grateful for them. This is in his main grid, right?
Yes. I'm not suggesting people can't change or have low moments or whatever. I don't know how amicable any of these parties involved are now, if things have been forgiven. The bottom line is this. You can't cast people who have this shit in their past on a show that is purporting to be the fairy tale, like the article is saying. If the show is, again, the purported premise is we are going to take a man or a woman and let them date 25 to 30 people in the context of this real life fantasy where we're whisking you away and going on helicopters and meeting Santa Claus in the Finnish snow. That was Nick Viall, of course. If that is the premise of the show, then you can't have people on the show who disrupt that premise. And anybody who has a restraining order, who has some kind of domestic violence things in the past, anything like this, they can't be on the show. There's just no way to
Joan
maintain
doesn't
both
even
things.
have her phone. Like, she is 100% relying on the producers and casting to put her in a safe environment, to cast guys where she's not going to be in danger. And same with Jen Tran.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have any opportunity to look this up for themselves. They don't have the opportunity to talk to anyone who might know them other than maybe their family at hometowns, whatever family that person chooses to put on the show. And they guarantee safety in other ways. You know, they do the STD checks. They do whatever kind of background check that they are doing.
Yeah.
I know they said that they, quote unquote, closed a loophole during one of the ones.
Yeah, well, I think the loophole is still open. Despite what they said, it seems very open to me, that loophole.
Another loophole, perhaps. I think we should take a second look. It is so hard to watch this show when this keeps coming out every season.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have 2 back-to-back seasons now, and one of them golden. And I know it's like, it's the same, but in your head, or at least in my head, golden is like, it's a cut above. That one's even more wholesome than the regular game. So it's like, it really can't fucking happen there. And here it is, 2 guys on this season.
It's definitely like men in that generation. It's a tougher comb through,
sure.
I think.
But even if that was the excuse that like, well, when they were growing up, it was a different time. This shit happened in 2021.
Yeah. There's no excuse for it.
Yeah, the Gill restraining order was granted a week before they started shooting. It's not like these guys were doing bad shit in a time when that was kind of admissible in society or whatever. This is all happening now. These guys are doing this shit now.
You don't understand. 70 million people were doing this.
Oh, God.
Back in 2021.
Dark Lord Harrison, you're here with me now. I can't believe it.
I'm like, we don't know all the facts, sure. But like, if no one not no one, but a tiny, tiny percentage of people file for restraining orders for no reason, you know, like it is so much to go through, to talk to the police, to go through all of this shit that like you wouldn't do it unless you felt terrified of this person.
Totally.
Unless they would not leave you alone and it's ruining your life. Like, yeah. And yes, people can change, but don't cast them on The Bachelor. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Like,
that's the exact point. It's like, I do think people can change, and obviously not all allegations are credible. That to me is like kind of beside the point. It's about casting. There is no reason to have anybody who has even a shred of doubt about their history or any of this stuff, let alone people who have fucking findable, publicly viewable restraining orders against them.
Yeah.
It's like if there's even a hint that something like this might pop out of somebody's past, gone, just don't put them in the player pool. Like, I don't understand.
Know what they're doing. Like, are they relying on the honor system? Like, these people are obviously thinking they're not going to get caught going into this. Or like, yeah, I mean, I guess he was worried about it, tried to seal it, but you can't depend on these people to voluntarily say, oh yeah, there was this thing.
Yes. I mean, I almost think you need to have like a private eye on every person you're about to bring in and be like, you have 2 weeks, find everything about this person, because clearly whatever they're doing for the background checks are just kind of a blanket, like type their name into some system, hit enter. If nothing comes up, they're good. And we did our due diligence. Yeah, exactly. It's some kind of legal liability where they can wash their hands of it. Unfortunately, the legal liability isn't where this stops, because you're destroying the audience. And we're going to talk about Joan Vassis's ratings in the gains section. You'll see what's happening. It's making it difficult to watch the show, especially if you're a longtime fan. The core audience that has kept this show alive through some of the worst times, like the bubble seasons and Matt James' season, et cetera, they're starting to get tired of it. And so it doesn't matter about the legal liability. It doesn't matter if you're indemnified against lawsuits and shit. You're not indemnified against your audience saying, fuck you, I've got Love Island now. That's super fun and doesn't seem to have this problem, at least not on the same scale. So yeah,
none of these other shows seem to have this problem on the scale. And like, what is that due to? Is it solely due to casting? Is it due to the insane detective skills of the fourth audience? I don't know, but it is not good for morale, Clues.
No, it's not.
And I am also concerned. I'm like, Gil went home. We got one of the restraining orders out, but Guy's on the kiss board.
Yes,
when is Guy
is
going
still
home?
in the game.
This is going to blow up even more if he goes.
Yes, exactly. We don't know how far he makes it, but we do know this. The further you go in the game, the worse this shit's going to get. This will not go away. Every 100%. Week that he's in the game, it will become a bigger and bigger deal. I would assume at a Men Tell All or a After the Final Rose. I don't know if he'll be made to answer for this. I don't know if they'll sweep it under the rug.
Probably not, based on the past.
If they sweep it under the rug, I think that's lights out. Like, I don't know how you get your audience
Devin
back.
Under the rug.
I know. But I don't think they can do... Look, that Devin thing, I do think I think everybody is very scared still in the Bachelor kind of hierarchy of who's going to take the hit for that. And maybe no one will. Because it's also kind of the window for anybody to be made an example of is kind of closed. No one really gives a shit. Like if they fired somebody now because of that, it would be like, wait, what though? That show ended a month and a half ago. We're watching Jen Train on Dancing with the Stars now. Like, well, who cares? So maybe they've already passed that window. No, it doesn't
seem like they're going to.
Yeah. So how did they fix this casting problem? I don't know, but I think that you could put stronger deterrence in place for guys who are coming into these casting sessions and lying about shit. Like you could just tell them up front, if anything comes out, anything, and it doesn't even have to be a legal document, but if you have a restraining order against you, if you have any kind of credible, and then it gets in that gray area of like, can somebody just make a bad TikTok about you? And then they're like, oh, fuck you. You know, I think it has to be some kind of credible, problematic shit in your past. If it comes out, we can sue you for $10 million and we will do it. We will destroy your life
start
financially.
Suing these people.
Something like that. I don't know.
Destroy them financially. Like there needs to be some kind of a deterrent. I really think the only deterrent is not casting men. And it's like, just do bachelors.
Yeah. Sure.
And then you'll probably be fine.
Maybe, but then you don't have bachelorette. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know either.
It's hard to see them getting rid of Bachelorette. It's easy to see them getting rid of Golden Bachelorette. Yeah. Just based on these ratings. But I don't know any other solution because the criminal justice system is so messed up that like these things aren't popping up and you have to go into the exact counties where people lived. And I don't think they have that kind of resource, like the government resources to do FBI investigations.
They do though. Like if you hire a good private investigator to investigate one person and you give them 2 weeks, I think they can find all this shit out. They're just not doing that. I don't think. Whatever company they're hiring to do the background checks just has a boilerplate thing they do. They have access to some
it's a search in
systems.
A database.
Exactly. And if it doesn't pop up, then it doesn't pop up. But it's like, you need to interview exes. You need to interview their friends. You have to go a little deeper, because what happened with Demonstrator.
But what if they're hiding these people? You know, like, what's his face? The second place guy on Jen's who had
Marcus Schoberg
allegation. Marcus, like, I bet that guy didn't mention all these people.
Of course.
Who he had bad whatever's with.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's mentioning them, but that's up to the show. It's like, you can present the show in a different way if you want. You can present it as like a docuseries. We have no responsibility in this. We're just putting you on dates with people. If you like them, you like them. And it's kind of on you to do the due diligence. They can put that on the Bachelor or Bachelorette or whatever. If they do that, have your phone. Exactly. They have to be able to do the research. They've got to be able to Google these people. You need your phone in the show. And that may be a way to get around this. I don't know. But the bottom line is, dudes are coming into this player pool. They are applying to be on this show, or they're being recruited, or they're being, their friends are putting them up, suggesting them, whatever. But once they get into the casting process, you as a player are making that decision. You're talking to producers like on Zooms and shit all day. And in some cases, they fly you to LA for the final casting. You're going through that whole process, knowing that you have a restraining order or you've done something bad and thinking you can hide it. And it just needs to be made more clear to players, I think. And the producers don't do this for obvious reasons. I do it every time I'm coaching anybody. I tell them, if you go on this show, anything that has ever happened in your life, anything you've ever put online, it will all be seen.
Any text you've ever sent.
Basically. And so I'm always like, if there's anything you don't want to come out, you should not do this show. I tell them all that. The producers don't, because they don't want to deter people. I think the producers should. I think they should be very upfront in the casting. The first thing they should say is like, you don't have to tell us anything you don't want to. But here's what's going to happen. On night 1, 450,000 people in the Bachelor subreddit are going to look at everything you've ever put online, and they're going to find every girlfriend you've ever had. If you have restraining orders,
absolutely should put the forums up on a PowerPoint presentation and be like, look at this.
Absolutely. Because at this point, they will
find your Instagram likes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, put together a PowerPoint about like Lee Garrett,
yes.
and Devin Strader, all of the fucking like the big people who got really wrecked by people finding their likes or whatever was in their past.
Victoria Fuller.
And just be like, this is what happens.
Rachel Kirkconnell.
Exactly. Yes. This is what happens to people who come in here with secrets. That, I think, would get rid of a lot of people. Of these people who have shit like Devin Strader. I don't think he would. Had he known that this was going to happen, that this could be a possible outcome, I don't think he would have done the show.
Really?
Yeah. I just
think there's like some sort of mindset, and maybe it's they just convince themselves it won't happen to them. Like, the balls you have to have that and go in and be like, oh yeah. But
you know what?
Didn't they find it? Didn't they? And he like explained it away. Wasn't that the
find what?
The restraining order thing for Devin.
Yeah, his restraining order was never granted.
Right, but didn't they find that it had been requested or something and asked about it?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Who did?
I thought the producers did.
Oh shit, I thought
that was in one of those articles.
Then you know what? Release those tapes. Record all your Zooms. Have that person on camera saying there is nothing in my past. Then when it comes out, put that on the official Bachelor Nation Instagram. Here's what he told us. We did the work. We did our due diligence. At least then it defers the blame, because what the big problem right now, I think, for Bachelor is no one trusts the show at large, the producers, the people making it. Not only do you let these guys on the fucking show every season, we saw what you did to Jen Tran. That decision to have her watch do the hot seat, then watch back the proposal was like, that's a creative decision from the producers. And having her on stage being like, do I have a choice? It has just painted this picture that like the show is torturing people on purpose. Yeah. And we know that's the truth, but not to this degree. And it's very
clear in that case that it's coming from the show.
Yeah.
It's not Devin doing that to her.
Exactly.
I do wonder, I mean, we get sometimes these preliminary cast lists on Facebook, the social media of note, and they're like, exactly. You know, do your due diligence. But guess what? No one is seeing those. Yep. A lot of these things are coming out once the people see them on TV. So I do think there is another way to do this would be you have them on, you shoot it more live, you shoot it more like Love Island, and then people will see them on TV. You'll get the news during shooting and you kick them off the show when you find out that news.
Totally.
When you've already shot it all, it's like, okay, now we're trying to re-edit. Now we're trying to cut out Gil. Should have cut out Guy.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. Now, that said, that requires a massive alteration to how they've done this show for literally 20 years. And because it's a network TV show and you're dealing with people who are entrenched in that system with an if it ain't broke, don't fix it mindset.
Yeah.
Well, it is broke. First of all, you do need to fix it, but they're not going to, because in network TV, people have had these jobs forever. And as long as the checks cash, they don't really give a fuck about much else. I think that's where it's kind of at with this franchise. I'm very curious to see what Grant's season does.
That way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was hopeful. You know, it's like, and that's another thing about this article is it's like, it's kind of ignoring the fact that Joey Graziadei's season did so well, but that gets overshadowed by all of this, you know? And like,
of course it does, because the show isn't about Joey Graziadei. I mean, I know it's called The Bachelor, but the show really is about, and for the audience, is primarily women. And the show is about the experience of the women in the show. And so if it's Bachelor, yes, we all like Joey Graziadei, but what we're really watching it for is like, is one of these women going to fall in love with him and get the fairy tale? And then Bachelorette obviously is about the Bachelorette. The guys can be funny and whatever, but we're watching to see, does she get her fairy tale? And invariably, at least in the last couple of seasons of Bachelorette, golden or regular, you don't get a fairy tale. You get a fucking nightmare. That's what the show gives you.
Charity and Dotton.
Yep. That seems 100 years ago, doesn't it? It seems so far in the distance. But even that fairy tale was only possible because they had to get rid of Mike Fleiss, the nightmare creator at the top of the fucking pyramid, you know?
We just need to get rid of all of the nightmares and go back to the purity of our beloved game. Exactly. Go back to the fairy tale. I do think, though, that like what you're saying is correct. It's mostly watched by the women and gays, and we should do it from their perspective. And I love your pitch about like shooting it docu style from the women's perspective.
Yeah. Change it up.
And like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's broke. Like,
yes, I agree.
It is toilet city over here. You're not risking anything at this point to experiment, to get some new talent in, etc.
I totally agree with you. And it's what they're doing is ruining a lot of shit. It's like the audience is going away because nobody wants to watch this, but it's also like your possible players. I think you got very lucky 100%. With Maria Georges.
Yes. And they should have done everything possible to have made her the Bachelorette.
I agree. Whatever she wanted, double her money,
$1 million,
change the shooting schedule. Because what you have now is, I think, at least from what I'm seeing in terms of people asking me to coach them for various shows, I'm getting fewer requests to get coached for Bachelor and way more for Love is Blind, Love Island, et cetera, et cetera. So I think like the incoming generations of players. Do you want to get
treated better? Do you want your numbers to be higher? What's the reason for going into Bachelor at this point?
Yeah, I think there's a huge problem here. And Grant Ellis is, you know, unfortunately for him, I think his season is going to be potentially like a make or break. I know they've technically ordered Paradise season 10, but that is a long way away. They can yank that order.
Well, it might get better ratings than John.
I mean, shit. Be hard not to. All right. Anyway, that's our state of the game.
Hope you all are cheered up by this lovely state of the game.
I will say this as I always say this too. As much as it seems like we're in a very bad place as Bachelor fans, and we are, all sports go through this. You go through the very bad times where there's like, I remember one year in baseball, there was a players' strike that like just cut the season in half. It was like, oh, well, that's it. We don't get a half of the fucking season. Nope, guess not. Fuck it. That's the end of that one.
In football, constantly, they're murderers. They're fighting dogs. They're doing all sorts of shit.
Yeah. Well, they're dog fighting. I don't know if they're fighting dogs, but yeah, the Aaron Hernandez show's out right now. He murdered. So there are dark times, and certainly we're going through one of those now. Seems like we've been going through a bunch of them in the last 3 to 5 years.
Well, the show reflects our culture at large.
It does. But I will simply also say this. Bachelor is what it is. And I still maintain that it is, mechanically, it is the best dating game on a single kind of, a single player sport level. That said, it has given rise. It has given birth to Love is Blind, Love Island, all the other ones. And I consider it all to be part of the same like dating reality TV sport, really, And I think you'll have one rises to the top, then another one does, and another one becomes more relevant, whatever. I think Bachelor could come back. They just got to change.
A lot of the Love Island USA seasons were not good.
Yeah.
Except for the one with Mackenzie and this past one.
Yeah, this season 6 I love. Anyway, that's our state of the game.
But yes, think outside the box. Let the players play. Give them their phones so that they want to go on the show.
You know what? I'll make this offer right now to any producers listening, to anybody who has any control at the Bachelor franchise. Lizzy and I will come in if you give us showrunner power. Put us at a Claire Freeland level. Put us at a Bennett Graebner level. I will promise you that we will make the show better. We will save the fucking franchise if you give us one season to do what we want.
And absolute power.
Absolute power. We cannot be questioned creatively. That's the only thing that I will put in that contract must be established. We'll save the show. I have no doubt that we could do it.
Me too, Clues. Let's do it.
Let us know where we got to be and when we got to be there.